Barnstable This Morning. I'm Sarah Colvin, and joining me live on the phone, I welcome Cape and Island State Senator Dan Wolf. Dan, good morning.
Good morning and happy spring, Sarah. Finally.
Yes, I know it's been so nice out. I'm so grateful. It's been wonderful to spend time outside. It's a good thing.
We are blessed to live on Cape Cod, that's for sure.
Without a doubt, absolutely. In talking about living on Cape Cod, I think that the housing conversation, Dan, is one that I find so very fascinating because there are so many different facets to it. And it's so much more than just, the blanket term of affordable housing. I think there's a movement to kind of change the conversation and instead of call it affordable housing, which really kind of has limits and restrictions, to change the conversation to more housing that's affordable.
Yeah, or even broaden it out to more of a general economic discussion, which is the gap between the wages here on Cape Cod, given our economy, and the ability or cost of living here on Cape Cod. Because really it's an economic issue. It's the gap between what people can earn here and what it costs to actually have housing here. And that's really, I think, what we have to address.
Absolutely, and you almost want to kind of balance the sides, so you bring up the salaries a little bit and then take down the cost of housing a little bit.
Yeah, and we have a large part of our economy is a service economy, whether it be landscaping, teaching, public safety officers. There's just a whole panoply. Hospitality industry workers, a whole panoply of people who really struggle to find a place to call home for their family.
So where do we start? I know that that we can talk about the zoning bill in a little bit, but in terms of kind of taking a look, big picture, what if anything can be done at this point, or what should we be doing that we're not doing right now?
Well, the first thing, Sarah, and there is good work being done on this by the Cape Cod Commission and by the town housing authorities, is there needs to be a gap analysis, because this seems like an insurmountable problem. And the first thing you do, I think, when you have something that looks insurmountable is really try to define what the need is. So I think town by town, the first thing we have to understand is how many units do we need? What do those units look like? And then we have to go beyond that and look at what the capacity is to create affordable units there. And, that the zoning bill addresses a lot of that, because the answers to that are found in things like accessory apartments, which is an ongoing dialogue here on the Cape, allowing some of the existing properties to be expanded a little bit, or even under the existing footprint, to create what used to be called grandparent apartments, but I think now we're really calling them accessory apartments. And that's just one example. The other example, of course, is cluster development, density, looking for opportunities without putting more of a burden on a lot of our infrastructure to create more housing opportunities. Because every time you can do that without creating additional expense, you're really making it, that's the key to affordability, is not to have it be really expensive.
Absolutely, and certainly tying in with the wastewater issue as well. I know when we look back at the building boom of the 80s, when all sorts of developments, condos, neighborhoods, et cetera, were put in, certainly all septic systems, et cetera, and I think certainly that's something that we have to keep in mind when we're talking about building or creating more units, is the most prudent way to deal with wastewater issues.
Sure. The wise and old folks listening who are my age remember when the Cape, the development consisted of a well and a septic system, usually a cesspool back then, on every piece of property. So what really defined how close you could put houses together was the ability to have clean water on the one end of the property while you were dumping septic on the other end of the property. We've come a long way from them, and with the 208 plan moving forward on the Cape, that will allow us to put density where we want it without unintended consequences, consolidate infrastructure, and really create some affordable housing.
If we can go back to kind of talking about the salary point, when we talk about how much money people are making here on Cape Cod, I think we think about whether we're talking about salaries. I know we mentioned a lot of hospitality industry. There's a lot of service workers. There's a lot of people working in retail. But kind of taking a look at how can we attract higher paying jobs, and what kind of industries do we need to look at? I know that conversation is being had as well.
Well, technology, that two-edged sword that everyone talks about, technology, which to some degree has cut the legs from under the middle class in this country, but also creates opportunities for people to work in their living room through technology, through the internet, and make a good living here. So a lot of the technology enhancements over the last generation do offer opportunities for people to live on the Cape and earn more money here. But, that doesn't change the, I think, benefit that we have of living at the gateway to one of the nicest national parks in the world. I mean, the Cape Cod National Seashore, which we overlook very often, is a huge asset and resource here, which means that the Cape will always, to some degree, be a destination and retirement. It'll be a tourist destination and a retirement community. And therefore, we're always going to need the service jobs. So even if we layer on more high-paying jobs that we can reach through technology and high-speed internet access and all that stuff, Sarah, we're still going to need healthcare workers. We're still going to need public safety officers and hospitality workers and retail workers and restaurant workers, et cetera, et cetera. So, it's not enough to say, well, let's solve this by bringing higher-paying jobs to the Cape. We need the jobs that are here and that are going to continue to be here to pay more, and we need to figure out how that works in this economy, because we don't want to put small businesses out of business in doing so. But those traditional jobs do need to pay more. And then we need to have creative mechanisms. You and I have talked before about the concept I put forward as a regional housing trust to try to bridge the gap for down payments for people who want to purchase, or to subsidize rents for people for whom the rent is too high. So, there's a whole panoply of exciting things that we can do. And I look forward in the months and years ahead. While I'm not going to be state senator next year, there are certainly ways in this community that I can help to work for finding ways to solve both ends of that equation.
And we certainly look forward to that. And I know while you continue to be a state senator, you are working on the zoning bill to kind of, deal with some of these issues. So let's talk a little bit about that bill, Dan, and kind of where we are in the process and what you're hoping it will achieve.
Yeah, where we are in the process is that the bill has been reported now out of committee favorably. That was in the Economic Development Committee, Small Business and Economic Development. It went to Senate Ways and Means. Senate Ways and Means has been redrafting the bill just to make sure that the technical aspects of it are in line and legal and all that. And my hope is next week they will actually be releasing a draft of that bill. In my tenure in the Senate, I have not seen a piece of legislation that has had so much input and so many working groups and so many interest groups and constituents as involved. The Association to Preserve Cape Cod, for example, has been at the table the entire time this bill has been drafted. And I'm talking, over a decade, really, that people have been looking at updating our zoning laws. Zoning laws in Massachusetts haven't been updated statewide since the early 1970s. Carl Yastrzemski won the Triple Crown that dates it, the last time that zoning was reformed in Massachusetts. So it's long overdue. And it'll come out of Senate Ways and Means hopefully next week, and then after the Senate has done the budget, which is next week, we're going to take it up, and hopefully by the end of the first half of June, we will have acted on it at the Senate, and then throw it over to the House and see if they can get something done in time to get in front of the governor before the end of the session.
Great. And so what are the goals of this bill? Obviously, as you say, the zoning laws have not been updated since the 1970s, and thinking
Yep.
about how different the world is now than it was in the 70s certainly speaks to, okay, definitely time to take a look at these. So what are some of the goals you're hoping to achieve with changing these rules?
Well, I think this could be called the lessons learned zoning bill. Back then, 50, 60 years ago, we thought that smart land use was just upping minimum lot sizes to go from a quarter acre to a half acre to 1 acre, in some communities 2 acre, in some communities in the Commonwealth it's even 5 acre minimum lot size. But the unintended consequence of that was it really created a lot of suburban sprawl. And the thing about suburban sprawl, which is so difficult, is it doesn't allow for walking villages and those types of communities that a lot of people prefer to live in. But the really important is that it drives the cost of land way up, because it gobbles up land really quick, and it drives the cost of infrastructure up as well, including transportation and traffic enhancement. So if you're trying to provide water or sewage to communities that have 1 acre lot size, you've got to run pipe an awful long way to get every house. So this bill creates a real incentive around density, around transportation nodes, allowing opportunities for good, smart growth, as we've learned over the last number of years. So offsets as we create density and more housing opportunities that are affordable. We have offsets for open space that are built into this. And then it changes some of the technical regulations. It incentivizes communities, for example, to have a more predictable, streamlined approval for developers. So, when they look at developing a piece of land, it doesn't look like a black hole of incomprehensible regulation that it consolidates approval processes through conservation commissions and building committees, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a very, very complicated and comprehensive bill addressing, again, all sides of the equation. It's a balanced bill, hopefully giving good relief and incentives to people wanting to develop, but also for those looking to preserve and set aside land. It has a lot in there for those people as well. So we've worked really hard on this. I hope the clock doesn't run out on the session before we get a bill done. And again, my hope is we get something through the Senate by mid-June and then over to the House as quickly as possible for their action.
So, Dan, if people want to learn more about this bill, what's the best way for them to find out more information?
I have to ask an embarrassing question. Because I'm in my car and I don't have the bill in front of me, I can't refer to the bill number. Do you have it in front of you?
I do not. But you know what I'll do is I'll look it up and I'll post it on our Barnstable This Morning Facebook page.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously do not have 5,000 bills committed to memory by bill number. But actually, if you go, I'm the sponsor of the bill. So if you go on the Dan Wolf Senate website, which is the Senate website, all the list of bills that I filed is there, and that bill is there. It changed. It was Senate Bill 122, and the bill number has changed, which is why I don't have it in total recall. So it's not the number that was originally filed, Sarah, but it's easy to find because it's very in play. The Boston Globe has written editorials lately about it. The Cape Cod Times has as well, and there's, I think, a real motive force behind updating our zoning so that we can accomplish some of the goals around housing and infrastructure that have been part of the conversation here on Cape Cod for a long, long time now.
Fantastic. Well, Dan, I thank you so much, as always, for joining us here on BTM, and I look forward to chatting with you in a couple of weeks. Have a great day. Enjoy that sunshine.
Thanks, Sarah. You too.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Cape and Island State Senator Dan Wolf joining us as he does every other Tuesday. Going to send you out real quick.